Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
Hi, I'm Rob Charney with Old Guy Tech TV, and we're here today on Tuesday, February 7th, doing a little bit of tech talk with John and I and going over a few things that caught our attention. There's so much going on out there, it's difficult to filter out what we want to talk about and what we don't want to talk about. We picked a few subjects because we always want to keep new and better and updated material on theogt.tv, so at least when you go back you have something new to look at, and that's our goal, of course, is to have something new and exciting for you to always go back out and look at. So we're going to try our best. We'll come up with some headlines. I think tomorrow we're going to have some local area news that we're going to try to bring to you as well. And so we're going to start with Jonathan today. So, John, what do you got on your plate?
It's Apple might lose a $1.6 billion lawsuit for using the word iPad. So,
supposedly, Apple purchased the right to use iPad from somebody who apparently had it prior, and they paid, I don't know, $55,000, something like that. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but the story doesn't tell you if it was a international trademark, if it was one in China. I'm assuming the way they worded it sounds like it was a worldwide trademark.
Yeah, you would think with all the attorneys they have over there at Apple that this would not be an issue.
Well, they do say in the story that Apple purchased the trademark, but they didn't buy the rights to use the name in China.
Okay.
So
somebody or the country of China actually owns the iPad name?
Yeah. Well, they purchased the name. But it's
not in China, you're saying?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a U.S. I'm assuming it's worldwide, but yeah, they just, for $55,000, you can buy this, but not in China. And you would think, my guess, Apple did it. Just, one reason Apple probably put it in there is if they've been using the trademark, now the company is forced to back it up.
Yeah.
And saying because Apple now has prior art, possibly, I don't know if they do or not, this could force the company possibly to lose their trademark in China. At least here in the U.S. it works that way.
You know what it sounds like to me is they're trying to
bully.
Yeah, it's not even the word I'm looking for. It's almost like we're going to hold hostage the name iPad until you pay us a certain amount of money, and that's what it sounds like. That somebody in China just wants to get their palm greased. And
they only spent $55,000.
Well, so, I mean that's fine. I mean,
that's chump change.
Well, it is
$55,000 if Apple comes buying it to you, unless they bought it through a shell company. You'd think you would at least ask for a couple of million, or unless the $1.6 billion they did on purpose. Say we're going to go through here, and then we're going to force them through the courts to spend more money on us.
I wonder what the original use for whoever owned it prior to Apple. I wonder what they were using it for. Does it say?
It's a China-based company called ProView Electronics. It does not say in the story, actually.
Okay, so it doesn't say what they did, how they did, or if they used the name at all.
Yeah, the only thing it says is that if I'm getting this guy's name right, it's Zhao Sayun.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a lawyer for the company, believes Apple will lose the appeal because apparently they've gone through court once and they're prepared for long-term legal battle.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Apple's got a small issue in China. Maybe I shouldn't say small. I bet they sell an awful lot of units over there, so they're going to want to get that straightened out. Well, they had to close. If I remember correctly, there's a story a while ago where they had to close in one of their Apple stores because of the line of people. What people were doing is they were hiring like day laborers or whatnot to stay in the line for them. Right.
And because there were so many people, the store closed, and so the day laborers weren't going to get paid because the people would pay them when they got the Apple products.
Right.
I think it was iPhone 4S.
Yeah, I seem to remember something about that. Wasn't there a small shuffle between people and people got mad and the store was damaged, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had some issues with the...
It's a small riot for Apple products. Like people were throwing like groceries, I think, like tomatoes or something like that, I thought.
Oh, yeah, they were throwing tomatoes. Well, yeah,
it was something along that line.
It might have been. Probably water buffalo dung or something.
Ugh.
Well, I don't know. It's China. What do I know? I guess there are water buffalo in China, aren't there?
I highly doubt they're in Beijing unless they're on a rack being eaten.
Well, there's the big old river that goes through all that area. Sorry, I have some ignorance of China. I don't remember the name of the river.
It's not the Yellow River.
I don't know. But anyway, who knows? But.
No, I never knew.
So Apple's got a problem. They're going to have to deal with the trademark issue on the term iPad.
I don't.
What else could they call it? Could we come up with something? Just
see. I've always thought it was
iTab. I think that was one I came back with when they were first talking about trying to put a name to it. Why didn't they go with something like iTab? Somebody obviously holds the patent to that now, but
because they have the iPod. Now it's the iPad. It's naming convention would be my
guess.
But
you think about it. It's not really a pad as in a tablet. And that's what I think. Well, I think it's more of a tab. It should be iTab, the tablet.
See, people say I think iPad. Like a pad of paper. Now this is your new digital pad. You can take, write notes and.
I understand the concept. I don't agree with it. I think it's a poorly chosen word, but it's there.
I still think it. To quote a friend of mine, still sounds like a feminine protection product.
I think even Jay Leno did a joke about it on that being that called that. So I don't know. Okay, so let's guess. Let's see. I like iTablet. What do you like?
I actually like the name iPad.
You would. You fanboy. You Apple fanboy.
That's not necessarily true. What I do personally is I use what's ever popular, and it just happens to be Apple and Windows.
Yeah.
So I use both.
Yeah. I don't blame you. And I think Apple will win this one. They've got a lot more money and a lot more attorneys, unless, of course, they're fighting the government of China itself, and then that's going to be a whole different issue, isn't it?
The only thing, I've never heard of ProView, but that doesn't necessarily mean, for all you know, they could be the third biggest company in China.
True.
I mean, with more lawyers per insert denomination here. So
I don't know. Is it the government that's suing them, or is it the small company?
All it says is it's a company by the name ProView. So okay. I've never heard of it. I didn't look it up, which I probably should have.
So it's a Chinese company.
It's a Chinese company.
It's not a government. It's a Chinese company.
My only thought is they sold it for $55,000. So I'm assuming it's a small company.
Right.
Because I don't know anybody who in a large company would have sold it for chump change.
Right.
I mean...
Well, especially if it came from Apple. But my guess is you were probably right. It's probably a shell company that approached them and said, hey, we want to buy the name.
Still, $55,000? I mean...
Well, that's a little bit of like the guy who did the Yahoo thing,
Yahoo!
Exactly. He was originally, I believe, paid like $5,000 to do that. And then, when Yahoo became very, very popular, it was probably the best used search engine at the time. I think then he finally stepped up and said, hey, come on, guys, kick down something out there. But I still think he only ended up with like $50,000.
Oh, yeah, he didn't.
And now, with all the problems that Yahoo has, they probably want the money back.
Yeah, on the positive side, that $50,000, if he hasn't spent it, is still $50,000.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't $50,000 in stock.
What do you think is going to happen with Yahoo? They are really at a point where...
I think they're going to split up. I could see, because I think, is it Yahoo who owns Flickr? I could see them spinning off some of their major properties.
Yeah, you may be right. I think it is.
Because I could see somebody...
Flickr is well made, by the way. It's a good product.
I could see somebody or them either spinning off Flickr or somebody buying it. I could see them slowly, removing everything.
What about Microsoft buying Yahoo again?
See, I still think that was a mistake.
On Yahoo's part?
On Microsoft's part. Well, I mean, for one, it was Yahoo's fault for not selling. But I do agree with a lot of the pundits who were saying that would have been a big mistake. I don't see any reason for them to buy it.
If you look at the dollars and cents, Microsoft came up and said, you know what, we're willing to buy Yahoo at, I think it was $20-some billion. Maybe more.
It was like $30 per something.
So, and that was when they initially offered to buy it, and Yang, I'm sorry, folks, I'm terrible.
Jerry Yang.
Okay, Jerry Yang. He said, no, it's worth a lot more, we're going to hold off. 3 years later, his company's worth a third of what it was, and of course he's gone now.
But he quit. He recently quit.
He recently quit because the board said, you're out of here because you screwed us out of billions of dollars. And that's the reality. He lost that company billions of dollars.
I don't think Microsoft, I could see Microsoft maybe buying the Yahoo portion of it, just the search engine or doing something.
Well, they already have Bing, so they don't need the search engine. They need the other properties.
See, I don't think there's nothing there that Microsoft already doesn't have.
Well, I think you named one, which is Flickr, which is probably one of the best. I use it a lot as a still photographer. I put all my still when I'm on a job, and I take photo, at the different shoots and things that I go to, and I take all these photos, all the shooters. I put them up on Flickr. It works great. It's probably the best platform.
I just don't see Microsoft doing that, because then because they also have, I think they have something like that. I mean, just if they don't, I'm surprised they.
Well, they might, but I don't know it. Hey, I'm supposed to be the tech guy, but in all honesty, I don't know the nuances of every product that belongs to every company. I mean, this is probably stuff that we need to go back and research a little bit more and have a little bit better idea when we come up with these questions. But we do these roundtables and these discussions just live. We just start talking and we never know where it's going to take us. So I apologize if we don't have all the answers. You're always welcome to leave a comment on our blog site underneath these videos and maybe straighten us up a little bit. But I think Microsoft should have bought Yahoo. I think Yang made a big mistake in not doing it, and his shareholders were out for blood because they lost a lot of money.
Now I just don't see it unless they buy it so Google doesn't buy them. I mean, that would be the only reason why I'd see him doing it, because Google would buy Yahoo. Basically would buy the search engine and just make it either a permanent, using their engine, or just completely turn it off. Because then that would probably say goodbye to part of Bing's share in the search engine market. Because but on the other hand, if Google did that, because they're already going up, was it monopolies? I forgot oh God, I don't remember the name of the board, but the government's looking at them for wrongful use of their search monopoly.
It's looking at Google?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So
because they have so many properties, and you're using their search engine to bookmark, to say, hey, look at us.
Right.
We have, new galleries, new this, new that.
Right.
And so I've read they're being looked at into being a monopoly.
Okay, so there's some anti-monopoly forces out there trying to say that Google owns too much. And there may be an argument about that. The problem is that the products are so much better down the road when a company like Google comes along and is willing to spend money on the technology, and they they improve the product, or they find that it's no good and they shut it down.
Well, the only thing I would say is if somebody else has a competing, say if somebody has, something like some sort of Google competitor and something they do, and Google decides to promote their stuff always above their competitors. Being a search engine, they could do that. That's the only thing I would disagree with, if they do that within their, because then you're affecting mindshare, because and if you're doing that, then
there's where the monopoly situation comes in. They come in and they take over a market. They're the big guys on the block. They have the money to spend. If it works, great. If it doesn't, they don't care.
Which that part I think is cool. If they shut it down because nobody uses it, it sucks to be the couple of hundred people using it.
Well, it was kind of like inventing a product like Wave, which was never determined on what the hell it really was. Yeah.
I think they wanted to see what the community did with it. Yeah, it just never happened.
I think they got the answer right away. Kind of like everybody was like me, like, okay, so why do I want this? And everybody that I know of had the same question. They just all went to, why should I spend my time with this product that I'm really not sure that it does anything? So
I think the only thing I honestly think Google has to worry about is if they're obviously down promoting within whether the rankings or whatnot, is if a competitor's product.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. And I think if there's proof of it somehow, even if it's circumstantial, I think the government should at least look into it. And I'm not a big fan of that. Personally,
I'm a free market guy. I kind of like the government keeping their stinking noses out of things.
But here's the issue, though. The free market, only works so far is because I believe monopolies like Microsoft. Microsoft could have easily put Apple out of business, but the government said, let's not do that, and stepped in. That's the only time I really think, because if you keep healthy competition, that works. The only problem, one monopoly gets bigger than the other, then that swallows it up. And the monopoly may not be as good.
Well, Microsoft had a stake in Apple surviving.
They didn't have a choice, really. I mean, that was kind of
I don't know that that's the case. My understanding is Bill Gates wanted Apple to exist because they write the Office suite for Apple, which is the #1 suite. Word and Excel and everything else still for Apple. Now you got the whole market. Not only do you have the PC market, but you got the Apple market.
But if Apple didn't exist, they would still have the entire market. Matter of fact, they'd have more because Apple's market, which is no longer there, so Microsoft could say, hey, you who have Apple, since they're out of business, we'll give you a free computer that has Office on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you can look at it in multiple ways. I just see it that...
monopolies, I think when a good monopoly is healthy, I think when a bad monopoly, and I think because of the search engine on the internet, is the only thing I think may be... it's the only time at least look into it. Yeah. I mean, the government may not even do anything. The government may say, hey, we see what you're doing. Don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. Not being a super Apple fan, I can see they have some great products. I want to see Apple exist because I think Apple makes other manufacturers and other companies think. When they put their brain trust together, Apple comes up with some pretty great ideas.
Apple, I don't think will go away. Oddly enough, I think they're the new Microsoft in being the leader of something. Microsoft in the traditional PC market is still the world's leading operating system maker.
Right.
I think now as the world goes towards portable computing, I think Apple's going to be the leader in it. Personally, I mean, the reason why is because they have the best industrial design on the planet so far. Everybody else is still trying to catch up to their design. So I think right now, they're leading that because, now everybody wants a tablet because they made a tablet. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants a touchscreen phone. When a touchscreen phone like the iPhone, when it came out, everybody said, oh, hey, we didn't think about that. Mm-hmm. Let's do this.
Yeah. Well, I must say, in defense of your argument, let's take the iPad as an example. I own an original, they'll call it a classic someday, the classic iPad. And I use it every day for multiple things besides reading my books. I read all my magazines on it. I listen to Audible on it. I do an awful lot with it. And if you have been watching us for a while, you know that I also played around with the HP tablet that they came out with, and 30 days later decided they weren't going to make anymore. And I think it has a very nice feel, and it looks pretty good. It's no iPad, and it certainly was no iPad killer. And I think maybe they figured that out themselves. So,
that was a different story, I thought, because they're in that HP was in that weird transition phase where they were trying to stay out of.
Well, they had CEO problems. I mean, they had a CEO, and again, folks, I'm bad with names, but they had a CEO in there before Meg Whitman came in, who wanted to spin off. Could have been. He wanted to spin off or get rid of the PC line altogether, get out of PCs entirely, which really made no sense. And now with Meg Whitman in there, it looks like they're going to stay in the PC market and they could continue. Their tablet was nice. I really like it. Feels nice. I kind of like some of the features of it. It's supposedly going to be upgradable as time goes on. We'll see, because they're changing their minds. They don't really know what they're going to do for sure. It's still in flux.
Well, I think
it's a nice little pad, but it's not an iPad killer.
I think the problem, they didn't necessarily have CEO problems. They had vision problems. I think the problem is whatever CEO or whoever's on the board, they didn't have a vision of where they wanted to take it. I think having the standard computers, is Steve Jobs called them the trucks or whatever. HP sells services. So, I could see having computers so you could sell your services and be in a holistic view on each thing. They sell services, they want computers. If they want this, they do that. I think the problem is there's no vision on what the company as a whole and the departments of the company. That I think is the main problem.
I think the whole thing was lacking vision. With the guy that was in there, I think he did a terrible disservice to HP.
And saying, and I think one major thing they did wrong, I think canceling the HP touchpad.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was a good and a bad thing depending on how you look at it. And then saying we're going to get out of computers. Mm-hmm. When you think that right there,
mm-hmm.
they probably lost money on a lot of contracts. And everybody going, wait, what?
What? You're going to get out of this business? Well, we're not going to keep our contract with you because the government was probably the largest purchaser of products from HP, between printers and computers and everything else. I think the United States government was a #1 customer, and then all of a sudden they turn around and say, "Hey, you know what? All those wonderful computers you have, we're not gonna sell them to you."
I mean, if I was Dell, Lenovo, Sony Vaio, all the companies that
you'd be happy
that they did that, and they said, "Oh, we're no longer doing this," I'd be knocking at the door, going, hey, we'll give you this per unit,
Yes, agreed. So it's going to take some damage control for them to get back into this. But, HP as a company, we'll see what happens. I mean,
I'd like to see Hewlett-Packard go out of business. But on the other hand, I think without a vision, I mean, look at IBM. I mean, they were Big Blue when Microsoft was started. And
right.
They've somehow managed to survive, and I think that's because they had a vision. I mean, they're a boring business company.
Well, they're still in the enterprise. They're still in the mainframe. They're still in a lot of the big areas.
I think that comes from vision, but also having a good idea of who they are. I mean, they were always international business machines. They were always big supplier of mainframes, computers. They were. If you're into technology, you could probably geek out about them, but they're a boring company.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
So what else do you have in your stack of stuff?
Well, so that was enough on beating up HP and talking about the iPad name not owned by Apple in China. One of the things that I think most of you know that we've been against was the SOPA and PIPA situation, or however they pronounce that.
Yeah, it was SOPA, and it was the Stop Online Piracy Act and Protect IP Act, which IP was intellectual property.
Yes. Anyway, of course, the government, all of a sudden now they decided that they want to make sure that they can control everything. And so the article I have here states that Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, following a recent anti-piracy legislation debacle with SOPA and PIPA, like I said, will lead his second effort in 2012 to push internet regulating legislation in time in the form of a new cybersecurity bill. The expected bill is in the latest attempt by the Democrats to broadly expand the authority of the executive branch agencies over the internet. So basically this bill that dear old dingbat Harry Reid wants to put in the name of cybersecurity is going to give the executive branch, which if you guys don't know that, it's the president basically, says he can control it and do whatever he wants with it. So the details about it remain in secrecy. Of course, hell, they don't want to let us know what's going on until they vote on it, right? Didn't we hear that once before in our lives?
Yeah. So can I mind if I
jump?
This really bugs me. First of all, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I mean, I'm personally conservative, but I'm tired of all of our political parties deciding what we need. First of all, they did with this act of crap that all of it's secret because they're afraid of the masses getting out. Take a look and read what happened with SOPA. There's so many people who are against it. Websites went black for the day and lost money because of it. So I think if our stupid politicians get it through their thick skull, we don't want what they're giving when it comes to the internet. We like the Wild West. I mean, to quote George Carlin, all this security stuff like SOPA and ACTA and whatever he's passing is security theater. The guy waving the wand is not waving the wand. All he's doing is harassing innocent people. It's the same thing with guns. All you're doing is taking away ability to do things safely, correctly, from the good guys. Because
part of this is driven by, of course, the music industry, the movie industry, the television industry, because they are so afraid that they're going to miss on $1 or a couple of pennies or whatever every time something is used. They're driving force behind this, which is
BS. They were freaked out when Betamax came into business.
Absolutely.
They're like, "Ooh, we don't want you to watch our content at your home." And then, wait a minute, 20 years later, like, we want to save the business that we didn't like in the first place.
No, well,
you bunch of...
Yeah, well, absolutely, and here's the problem. And if you out there love the government, I'm sorry, but one of the things I always taught is always question. And according to this, a classified meeting behind closed doors in October 2011 between the key Senate committee leaders with jurisdiction over cybersecurity and the White House officials took place at the request of the Obama administration. So once again, we have our executive branch, basically our president, saying, I want to control everything, including what you get to see on your computer. Now, I tell you folks, we should not ever hesitate for 1 minute to make sure that we're vocal enough that leave the damn internet alone. It is what it is. It's free enterprise. It makes money. It isn't hurting anybody. Yeah, there are pirates out there. Yeah, there are cyber criminals out there. So we fight these folks. I mean, there's plenty of companies out there that's their job. But you know what? Government's got no business sticking their nose into what we can and can't see. Once again, here we go, Obama. You want to control everything. Not if I can help it.
See, here's the thing where the only thing is I don't care. Right now it's Obama. He's the enemy. If one of the Republican guys get in, I'm going to say the same thing because
if they take the same stance, damn right I'm going to. I don't know. I don't agree with you. I don't think they will.
I think at this point there's very little difference in at least the major politicians I see, because they don't hold any of the things that I think are important to the country. I think everything, that they may have a change in theory, but, they're both the last couple of presidents, if you want to get political here for a second, grew the government. I mean, that bugs me, but I mean, it just comes through the fact that I'm just tired of it. It's just like, for example, the PIP-1 thing, what it would have done is it would have blacklisted stuff on the DNS. If you guys don't know what it is, DNS converts an IP number, which is, like something dot.
There'll be a 192.1.1.101 or whatever it may be.
It converts it into like
joesgarage.com.
Well, I was going to say the OGT.TV.
Trying to get our advertisement in there. Sorry about that.
But you can still get to it via the IP number.
Yeah, but you got to know the IP number.
Yeah, well, the other thing there also I read, I don't exactly remember where I read it, is you ever heard of called the Onion?
Yes.
Not the network, it's the proxy.
Right.
Part of something I read is they were trying to, which by the way I heard our government uses proxies in other countries when they don't have free internet, like China, for example, so they can get around it. Part of the things I read during this, they were trying to make it, maybe hard to get, a little illegal. They were trying to, move it over to the one side, and it was some, And I'm tired of it. We don't want censorship, and this is what this is.
Yeah,
this is censorship. If you companies out there, I don't care if you're Miramax or EMI. How about give the people who are buying your content and the method or the ability to buy it, purchase it, or rent it in the format we want, you wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Final line on this. The White House proposal recommended that the Department of Homeland Security be given broad regulatory authority over cybersecurity matters over civilian networks. The White House proposal also recommends that the Department of Homeland Security program be developed in consultation with privacy and civil liberty experts and with the approval of the Attorney General.
You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? You hear that? I hear goose stepping right in the distance. This is freaking ridiculous.
I would have heard it too, but you're too busy coughing.
Yeah. This is the same thing over and over again. It worked very well for Hitler, and we all know how he ended up.
Well, yeah, and, unfortunately, the mainstream news is not going to report this in the proper way. At least I don't believe it will, but it's time that you hear on ABC, NBC, and CBS that that we have a problem. Our internet's going to be censored, and unless you speak up, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose our ability to go where we want to go, to read what we want to read.
Exactly.
So.
And I guess, in my final minute of rant is, ladies and gentlemen, we really don't care what side of the political fence you're on. All we want is to have free access to the data you want to access. We don't care if you could be from a Michael Savage to some other, I don't know any other, like a Harry Reid lover, for example. We just want to be free in the internet. We're making a living at it, more or less. So I wish, this is, a really deep from the bottom of my heart, I wish they would just leave it alone. We don't need the government to make our decisions. I don't want the government telling me what time I go to bed. I don't want them to telling me the Fahrenheit 451 when it comes to it. Well, I've got to burn, my Bible or these books because they're evil, and the government has been known to ban books. I generally believe people are smart enough to make their own decisions. We don't need some government asshat just making decisions for us.
Yeah. I agree. I got to agree. We've got to keep, we have a Bill of Rights and constitutions for a reason, and we have to keep them strong, and we've got to fight with them. And I don't care what your stance is on the Second Amendment, but without the Second Amendment, you wouldn't have the First Amendment, and we're losing our First, Second, and Fourth Amendments almost every day. So we need to make sure that, you watch what's going on. You've got to be part of it. Come watch our show. And you know what? If you'd like to add anything to the show and like to come and talk with us and do it around the table, you got it. Give us a call. We'll put you on there. I've got one more thing. How are you? You got?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got one more thing. I think I can save it for another show.
Well, this is interesting. So here we have a situation where a defendant ordered to decrypt laptop may have forgotten the password, according to the woman's attorney. A Colorado woman ordered to decrypt her laptop so prosecutors may use the files against her in a criminal case. She just might have forgotten the password, according to the defendant's attorneys.
Well, how long from the arrest to the trial date?
It hasn't said yet. Let me see. Let me get in here. It says authorities seized the Toshiba laptop from the defendant in 2010 with a court warrant while investigating alleged mortgage fraud. Ruling that the woman's Fifth Amendment rights against compelling self-incrimination would not be breached, U.S. Judge Robert Blackburn ordered the woman in January to decrypt the laptop. It's very possible to forget passwords, the woman's attorney said in a telephone interview. It's not clear to me she was the one who set up the encryption in the drive in the first place. I don't know if she will be able to decrypt it.
Oh, that sucks.
The decryption case is a complicated one. Even if solely analyzed under underlying Fifth Amendment issues, such decryption orders are rare, and they have never squarely been addressed by the Supreme Court. So what we've got here is, and one of the things that the government many, many years ago, I'm going to go 15 years or more, when PGP became popular, the government went nuts because it's an encryption. In case you don't know about it, it's an encryption software, 128-bit, which makes it virtually impossible to de-encrypt without the keys and the codes anything that you've encrypted. And the government just went nuts because that means them as well. We could go back in history and talk a little bit about the man that designed it, and the truth is we don't really know if he got out of prison where he was put because he made this pretty good programming encryption program, a backdoor. The government just went nuts. They felt that they needed a backdoor. Well, now we have many companies writing encryption software to 128-bit and up, which makes it very difficult for even the supercomputers to try to crack. And we're talking about literally months and maybe years.
Like
to be
Cray
able to,
computers, supercomputers?
Like Cray computers, supercomputers, like the NSA supercomputers. It's not an easy crack. You get that 128-bit encryption going, and you got billions and billions of possibilities. So they're up in arms over this. And so here we have a court case in which a judge is telling this woman that she needs to de-encrypt the encrypted material on her computer so that they can go through it and possibly prosecute her. Sounds like we got something a little skewed here, doesn't it?
What happens if she doesn't remember the password?
She can't. If she doesn't remember it, she doesn't remember it. Then what? What are they going to do? Lock her up in jail until all of a sudden she remembers it?
Well, didn't they? What does it say there, though? I mean, because I kind of glanced over the story. I ran across it, but did they say anything? What happens if she doesn't remember? Because that's kind of a big. I mean, I have plenty of passwords I don't remember. I don't know about you guys.
Well, it goes on to say that the decryption case is a complicated one, even if solely analyzed on the underlying Fifth Amendment issue, which is of self-incrimination. Such discrimination orders are rare, and they have never squarely been addressed by the Supreme Court, so we don't really have an answer. There's been some child pornography cases where a Vermont federal judge ordering the defendant to decrypt the hard drive on his laptop requested that. I don't know the outcome of that one. It doesn't go on to say.
So, I don't know. Seems like, I mean, I hope there's no child pornography because I find it disgusting, but it seems like an argument they use to screw everybody.
And now the case is even more complicated and raises the question of what might happen if the woman does not comply with the judge's orders. So if she does not decrypt the drive by month's end, as ordered, she could be held in contempt and jailed until she complies. If the case gets to that point, Judge Blackburn would have to make a judgment call and determine whether the woman had forgotten the code or is refusing to comply.
How would you find that out? What do you do? Hook her up to thumb screws? I mean...
I don't know.
I mean, I've got 9-digit hexadecimal passwords that I can't tell you.
I know.
Off of it.
The government will probably say you need to put her in jail until she breaks down and does what she is ordered to do. That will create a question of fact for the judge to resolve. If she's unable to decrypt the disk, the court cannot hold her in contempt.
Yeah, I see the thing. I see the sticky situation. But if she honestly doesn't remember. I mean, that's something you're going to have to put on her, though, is the only thing. Is she telling the truth or lying?
And that's the problem. The prosecutors, of course, believe that she's lying.
I mean, how do you prove that? I mean, do you bring her, like, fourth grade PE teachers and stuff like that? I mean...
Well, I guess what the prosecutor, Davis, said in a telephone interview is that the defendant had not said in any court document that she may have forgotten the password. She has not taken the position in court. When she does, we'll figure it out. So apparently they're just waiting for her to come into court and say, you know what, Your Honor, I don't remember the password.
See, that's an interesting situation. I mean, if there is child porn, I'd love to see her go to jail. But on the other hand, that if she's actually innocent, if she actually doesn't remember, I mean, you can't try. You know, that's the thing. It's like if you honestly don't remember, I mean, that's on her.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I can't tell you how many passwords I've forgotten, and unfortunately, if I don't write it down somewhere, I won't remember it. And what kind of security is that? I don't really care. You want to come in and look through my drives? Look through my drives. I've got nothing that that shouldn't be there.
I'll vouch for that. There's nothing interesting.
There's nothing there. It's old guy tech stuff and things like that. But and I don't encrypt anything. I've got absolutely zero encryption. So you want to come look at my computer? Come look at it. You're free to do it. However, I have forgotten passwords. And one of the reasons many sites are set up so that if you have forgotten your password, there's either a statement of, okay, what was your first dog's name? Where did you first live? Whatever, so that they could send you the password that you've forgotten.
What was your PE teacher's maiden name?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, there's all kinds of dumb things that they do, but that was, that's so that you have an idea to remember what the password is. I have literally forgotten dozens of passwords and had to do that or reset them. It happens to all of us. So, she could very well be telling the truth, and this is going to be interesting to watch in the Supreme Court, because how the Supreme Court is going to take a position. If a person says, I've plain forgotten, what do? Do you hold them in jail for a year until they remember?
Or years.
I think. No, you can't. You better damn well not do that. If this person has honestly forgotten their password and can't figure it out, throwing a person in prison for years is not going to change that position.
Well, what would have happened? I mean, say if we, have Sherman put the Wayback Machine back to, say, 1960. What would happen if this, the similar case was in the 60s? If she honestly said she forgotten, would the judge say, you say this is on you. If somehow we prove that you're lying, you're going to go back? Would they have released her on her own? Was it recognizance?
No. Actually, if you go back towards World War II and encryption, when encryption really became the big deal there. There were a number of people that were living in the United States, yet enemies of the United States, and attempted to and did crack encryption codes for the different military situations. So there's a precedence as far as that goes. But they came out and were willing to say, yeah, I'm an enemy of the United States, and I'm not letting you have these codes.
Well, I meant, I guess, in the way of if somebody was telling the truth. If somebody was saying, I honestly don't remember, would in the 60s or some earlier time than now, let the person go on their own recognizance?
No, I don't think so. Because like I said, you go back in history, they didn't do that. They locked these people up.
If it had nothing to do with encryption? I mean, just...
Well, but that's the issue.
Well, I guess the issue for me is wondering if she's telling the truth. If she says, I'm telling the truth, will the judge say, at some point, say, this is on you, that if we find out you're lying, you're going to stand before me again? I mean, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't understand. I'm not a judge. I don't know how they're going to make that decision, because that means that judge is going to have to make a decision where they go, okay, you, defendant, I'm going to put you in jail for X amount of time until you give us the passwords or you remember it. And it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't do that. That's something that judges tend to do all the time. But where does it go from there? And how long do you keep somebody in jail if they honestly don't remember? Or even if they stay... I mean, the fact is we have no way of knowing if that person's lying or not, right? We have no way of knowing that. So what do? You lock them up for a year? You lock them up for the rest of their life?
Well,
I mean...
Whatever happened to personal responsibility? I mean, honestly, if somebody honestly forgot, I mean, I would personally choose to say, okay, if they forgot, I personally as a judge would say, okay, if this is the truth...
Okay, here's another issue. Let's look at it this way. In this particular case, they are saying they believe that there's child pornography on that computer. Okay? Well, hold on. So, okay, so there's child pornography here. How does that come into the Department of Homeland Security under cyber criminal situations when they're not looking at secrets being passed, but child pornography? As much as we're against that and we don't like it, there's a big difference between child pornography and stealing information about how a nuclear sub's made or whatever it may be. Huge difference.
I still personally, I mean, this is where my view is on personal freedom. If the person's telling the truth, this is all based on the fact that the person is telling the truth, and because you really don't know, I would personally say, okay, I would let them go and basically say, as the judge, that if we find out that you're lying to us, I'll personally make sure you spend the rest of your life in jail, or insert term amount here.
Right.
This is my personal view is on the person. This is on, the person's heart. If they're wrong and we find out, prosecute them to the nth degree because they lied.
Yeah.
If you can prove it. That's where my views are.
Well, I think this shows us that we're in a point in time where there's going to have to be some major decisions made as to how do we deal with people's intellectual properties and or what's deemed illegal to possess, such as child pornography. Where's the Constitution lay into this? Where are the judges' decisions going to weigh in on this? Where are individuals going to weigh in on this as well?
Does the Fifth Amendment apply to personal electronics?
Yeah, that I believe has been proven. Your right to not incriminate yourself covers a broad spectrum.
You see, that's the other thing. If I declare the Fifth, everything should be. If they have it with you, I don't know.
I understand. It's a tough issue, but I know the way I feel, but I'm not a judge. So I'm hoping that as we go forward, that our free speech and our right not to incriminate ourselves and all the other Constitution amendments there, including the right to bear arms and free speech, are all taken as they're supposed to be written and as they were understood by our founding fathers.
Either way, the muck is getting thick.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting number of years as we go forward, and I think it's important for you folks to really, really pay attention to what's going on in the technology world. we're going to try to keep you informed. We're going to try to give you different things to look at and read and hear and follow and put some links on our pages and stuff. It's important that you spend a little bit of time trying to think about how you feel about some of the issues on piracy with SOPA and the other situations. And I really hope that you decide to judge on the side of freedom, because freedom of speech is one of the issues that we're really talking about here in these issues in the internet. And the internet needs to be free and not controlled. And I hope you believe with me. And I'm Rob with Old Guy Tech TV. I'm in here with Jonathan Charney, and we hope you come back and see us soon. This episode of Old Guy Tech TV is brought to you by Ward's Automotive, specializing in Banks Power and Pack Brake, servicing your car or truck and specializing in diesel engines. Over 30 years of service, located in Diamond Springs, California. Give them a call at 530-626-5588.